Hi, good evening, guys. How are we doing today?
Good evening. I'm good.
That's good. That's good.
Thank you. Good day.
Yeah. So I trust everybody had a productive week and would have received the um, review sheet. And on Saturday, we assigned everybody a question number. So we're just basically going to go through it. Um, the exam is going to be for 3 hours. And so in order to prepare for the exam, what I would recommend is that you select, we know that it's 15 multiple choice and 7 essays. So there are going to be 10 choices. And so by the end of this review, what you should do is select which 7 essays you want to prepare for, and then just focus on those questions. Again, there are only 8 chapters in the book, so you can expect one.
Miss Bullard,
Yes.
you can hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
A few persons are having difficulties joining the Zoom call.
Okay, they would need to call Miguel because I know one person emailed me and asked me if there was a link, and he was copied. I think there was Leslie. They would need to call. Can you reach them and ask to call Miguel and find out what's the issue?
Okay.
Okay, Miguel,
Hey.
some persons are having an issue joining. I know Leslie had called me for the link, but I saw that you had sent it to him.
Yeah, I had copied everybody on it. It's a new link. It's not the same recurring link because that link was for Saturday. But let me go and I can resend it to everybody again.
Yeah, but for the most part, I didn't have any difficulties. So perhaps they're looking at the old link. And Sierra, can you just ask I guess whomever contacted you to look at the email that Miguel would have sent today?
Okay, no problem. I just told them.
Okay. And Miguel, you at the office, right?
No. I'm at home, but I'm right in front of the computer.
Okay.
I can go ahead and resend the link. I have
is
access.
up. Just give them your number, please. So if they need to contact you.
Not a problem. 437. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay. Well, see, okay. Yeah, Sierra, you may need
6900.
The email that Mr. Miguel would have sent today, I placed it in the chat. I don't know, in the WhatsApp group. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. Thank you for that.
Okay.
So we'll just give them about 2 minutes. Okay, so it's so good that y'all started the WhatsApp group. For the persons who can't get on, that's very beneficial. Hopefully they can get on through that.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi, good evening.
Ms. Bullard, I have a question to ask before you get started, please.
Yes, go ahead.
It's Patricia.
Okay, go ahead, Patricia.
You know, I was thinking, and I keep forgetting to ask you, a lot of people, they said from gaming, after the laws were passed for legal gambling, they said a lot of people came to class for compliance. My question is, how are you policing gaming? Because the web shops, people just go in and play whatever. And in the casino, people go in and play whichever also, other than the high rollers whom they kind of monitor. So how would you, if you had to work as a compliance officer for the web shop, what are you policing, Ms. Bullard?
Well, the gaming board is the regulator for the
Web shop.
shops. Okay, and basically they have the same anti-money laundering guideline as the central bank. It's just scaled down. And so in terms of KYC, they are required to persons are setting thresholds. They are required to verify identity. They are required to obtain originals. I don't think they have to get proof of address, but they do have to get KYC, and they have to do the ongoing due diligence. And so I don't know if they have very savvy systems, but persons do have a threshold but they should not go over. I don't know if you would have seen, if any of you have an account, they would say that your daily limit is $100 or $200, and they block you at that point, so you're not able to deposit more than that amount in that day.
Oh, that's
Or-
why, because I'm
Right.
not a gambler.
Right, yeah. And so you verify the KYC, and then you monitor the accounts, and I guess they put blocks on the account so you do not exceed your limits.
Okay, so they
Yeah.
would have known already your source of funds.
Well, yes. More than likely you have to be, I don't know if they ask for a job letter at this point, but
Doubt it.
does anybody work in gaming?
I doubt it.
Oh, okay, yeah. But they do
Okay.
have a form. They do have the form that you fill out, and they do ask for thresholds.
Okay,
And then I guess they make a determination. If you put unemployed, then they would be concerned as to where would you be getting like $100 a day too,
to gamble, yes.
Right. So they do tell you that your account is subject to compliance approval, and they do have various monitoring systems to ensure that you, I guess, stay within guidelines.
Okay, that's the web shop.
Yeah, that's
And the
it.
casinos, that this doesn't apply to the casino.
Oh, of course. Every person who has been charged so far with failing, not every person, I should say, but the last two persons that I read about that did not declare the money, they won at Bahamas Casino.
Okay,
So it has to be that the casino, sends this message to customs or whomever is the checkers at the airport to say
Yeah.
that these persons won. Because
I think so.
yeah, because that was just a coincidence that two or three persons, the
Mhm.
people who were charged with that, failing to disclose on our end, not on the U.S. end, had just won at Bahamas
Bahama.
casino. Yeah, but
Okay,
you can visit the gaming board's website, and all of the policies, procedures, the laws are there.
thank you
Again,
very much.
Yeah, they are again on a learning curve because banking has monitored KYC since 2000, and they were just approved in 2015, so they're still fairly new. But I don't know if anybody ever applied for a gaming board license, and each I guess employee has to apply for it, depending which rank you are.
Okay.
It's a 66-page document where even if you were divorced, you had to bring your divorce papers. Even if you were
Wow.
divorced, you had to bring, details of your ex-husband or ex-wife. You had to bring all the birth certificates of your children
To work at the gaming board?
to be approved for a gaming board license to work
Okay.
inside the web shop.
Okay.
Yeah, to work in the web shop or in the casino. Yeah, so it's a very, very extensive process. And
Uh-huh.
then they have to pay fees for each employee. So it's a horrendous process because I had to help somebody go through it. It was unbelievable.
Okay.
Yeah. And they even go as far as you can't even write in black ink, you must write in blue ink so they can determine if it's an original or not. So the person had come to me for help because they had filled out 66 pages out in black ink
Back?
and had to redo it. And
Jesus.
yeah, they sent that back. Yeah, they sent that back. It was crazy, but yeah, I guess
Okay.
that's what you have to go through.
Very interesting.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you,
they
Ms.
have
Muller.
an inspectors who do like periodic checks and what have you.
Wow.
Yeah.
I find that interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, so let's see. I see two more persons would have gotten on. I don't Is Leslie? Leslie, you got on? Okay, good. Hopefully everybody who had an issue is on now. I didn't have any issues signing in. I think a few of us just got on, but um, hopefully, it's being recorded. So if anybody else have an issue, ask them to go into your WhatsApp chat or call Miguel on the phone, and then it's being recorded in case they would have missed anything. Okay, good, very good. Last opportunity to get your 5 points. Anybody? No? Okay, so on my list, I have Erica Woodlam, Meryl, Renita, Jason, Cassandra, Denara, and Erica Ferguson, and Patricia. Is that correct? Did I miss anybody? And Leslie?
This is for the homework. I'm so sorry, not the homework.
Just for the
The
participation?
This is the extra bonus 5%.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
oh, for reading a newspaper and stuff like that.
No, reading the newspaper was the 10%, and participating in class was the 10%. So this was the 5 bonus points for attending Toastmasters, Rotary, or Kiwanis.
What about?
Well, I'm in the process of joining a Rotary. Does that count?
Well, in order to get the 5%, you would have had to share it with the class.
I attended some meetings in the past, like about 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so why didn't you share it with us, Sierra? And every week I start the class by asking who wants to share.
Okay, so I would have been in a meeting with the Rotary East Nassau.
Okay.
They first of all we did a prayer, and then after that they did icebreaker. So usually, I guess their procedure is they come together and discuss things or whatever. So they did an icebreaker. We played a game. It's like not Monopoly, but like a Jeopardy game. And then after that, they were just speaking about, at that point in time, they were talking about, they had a penny drive they were doing. Basically raising, I think they were on Montague, if I can remember. But they were discussing a penny drive, to host a penny drive to collect pennies. So this would have been, I guess, before pennies would become obsolete, which would be December 31st, 2020. And they had a guest speaker. Now, I ain't gonna lie, they had a guest speaker, but I was so confused as to what she was talking about. It seemed very confusing to me. And then I guess after that, I'll be honest, I lost interest in it. And I just stopped listening from there. But I've been doing community service to fully become a member of it. And I'm in the process of doing that.
Okay, so the purpose of getting the 5% was so that you could network, right?
Yes.
And go. So did you go out and meet anybody or introduce yourself via Zoom, or what did you do?
Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, yeah. So did you introduce yourself or no? You met anybody at the meeting?
I met Chantre Pedigan. She is their treasurer. She's employed at Deloitte. Then I also would have came across Tyra Duncombe. She's the newly joined. I came across, I think this is I would say their speaker, but her name is Inger Cawley. She normally comes with announcements and stuff like that in all their meetings. They didn't really have too much opportunities for us to go out and meet, I guess, because of COVID. But I actually was a part of when they did. I think that was the ending of November. We would have had a movie night on Netflix, and we watched a movie called The Fifth Wave. That's about it.
Okay, but the whole point is to go out and meet, get familiar with the persons in the corporate world and introduce yourself and network. Okay, so I'll add your name to the list.
Yeah.
Here. Okay, and anybody else?
Ooh, Thank you.
No?
Ms. Paulette,
Okay.
how do we know if we got the 10%?
Okay, so most persons would have gotten the 10% except for, let's see, who I do not know. Okay, the person that I do not know is not here, so I don't need to call their name because I called them out a few times and they did not respond. So most persons would have participated and gotten the 10%, and definitely if you answer your question tonight, you'll get your 10. You're secured. Now, only persons who did not previously contact me, then, or I've been calling your name. So I started everybody off with 10 and I was subtracting from that when you did not answer. For the most part, I only have one person who did not answer or who I don't know at this point. So everybody else is fine. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, good. Okay. So where I started was the key to the exam is organization. The exam is going to be 3 hours long. It's 15 multiple choice questions and 7 essays. So by the end of this class, what you should do is select the topics that you want to discuss in your essays. So definitely everybody had to hand in one piece of homework. That essay, for the most part, everybody was on track, and I gave some feedback which you would have missed. Let that be one of your essays that you select. So that's just a matter of reading over what you would have written already. And again, it's not as long and detailed as the homework. I made it a little bit long in homework. I said 1,000 words because in ICA you have to write 2,500 to 3,000 words. So I wanted to give you some practice on that and also get some practice on the referencing. Now, in the exam, each essay question is worth 10 points. And so you can scale it all the way down. Your essay should not be more than 1 page. And you want to ensure that you have, read the question properly. More than likely, there are 3 parts in one question or 3 questions within one question. Ensure that you answer the entire question. Okay, and after you would have answered it, go back and check to make sure that you would have answered it in its entirety. Because a lot of times persons miss points because they did not answer in its entirety. You do get more points when you add like real life scenarios. Like a lot of persons completed the terrorist financing question, but they did not put examples in there. They told us what terrorist financing was. They said it was legitimate versus illegitimate, but they did not give any type of examples. So that's where a lot of persons would have lost points. So you want the real life examples. So go online and do some research on, I'm going to write on terrorist financing. This is the example I'm going to use to prove my understanding. You want to divide the time to ensure that you do not run out of time, because most of the times that's what happens, persons who run out of time. So I suggest that you answer your easiest question first, because it depends on how long-winded you are. If you're long-winded like Ms. Bullet, then you will run out of time. So answer your easiest questions first. So again, if you know that money laundering question, start with that right away. Okay? Then you go on to the harder questions because they may delay you a little further. If you run out of time, and running out of time is, I have 45 minutes left, 45 minutes out of the 3 hours, start to list. Instead of writing an essay, we will accept 2 questions out of the 7 as lists. And you should be able to get full points. So when I say list, that means you don't have to, start with an introduction. Money laundering is A, B, or C. In this essay, I will discuss placement, layering, and integration. Yeah, you could miss all that. You could start with placement is getting the money into the system. Layering is, and you could actually write down the points, and you should be able to get full points for 2 questions. We don't expect the entire, in my previous review, when I told persons, if they get caught up in the essay, start the list. I have a whole exam with just lists, no flow, no essay. So only your last 2 questions, you are able to, list. So in case you run out of time. Okay, but for the most part, we want essays, and we want according to the Nassau Guardian. We don't want you to just write, Shane Gibson was charged. No, according to the Nassau Guardian or according to the Tribune, and you don't have to, do footnotes or anything, but you have to at least say, who your source was. Okay, so organize yourself, pick your 7 questions, and those are the ones you should practice. And again, whichever one you did for homework, you should have that to the side and say, okay, now I only need 6 more topics. Okay. Okay, any questions?
Ms. Bullitt, in the event that you answer a question that you don't know a real life situation for, can you just build a scenario for it
No,
to show that
because
you know?
it's gonna be marked and cross-marked, and they're gonna fact check. If you said the Nassau Guardian said the exchange is finished charge, we are gonna go to the Nassau Guardian and check that exchange is finished charge. You
Right.
can't make believe or make up scenarios. So this is why you take the time and do your research now.
Mhm.
But Ms. Bullard, question, sorry. For instance, like the due diligence question, I guess. If you had like a real life scenario that you would have gone through at work, you still couldn't use that as an anecdote either?
Yeah. If you have a situation at work,
Mhm.
and you can explain it properly, then that's fine. But we don't
Okay.
want you making up stories that Miss Bullitt was charged on this day, or for example, Miss Bullitt could be charged and blah 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 blah. No. But if you have a real life, and you can say at work, this was a scenario, but make sure that you explain it and it was indeed applicable.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, not to, please excuse me, my brain isn't right today. You only accepting sources within the Bahamas?
No.
We can't, okay, all right.
No, you could use it from anywhere, but you just, yes, it'll be fact checked. If we're not familiar with the,
Mhm.
case or what have you, it'll be fact checked. So I'm just
Okay.
saying, don't just pick
I understand what you're
sources
saying.
that are relevant, that'll be easy to find, and you could say according to, the New York Times and blah blah blah, what have you. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, and I'm just saying that you get more points, for real life scenarios, or the fact that you can tie in with the question is asking you to a real life event. Okay? Okay. So we clear so far, and again, I hope most of you, employers offer the study period or the study time, because it does help. And even that morning, you don't wanna, you wanna miss, perhaps you wanna, unwind and not rush and take your time, because I find that a lot of people, when they get to the testing center, they need half an hour to fix their bag and to do this and do that, and then unwind. And Miss Willie, it was a rush and it was traffic, and so try to prepare so you can reach half an hour early, and you are not overwhelmed and feeling rushed. And then again, just only your keys, your mask and your keys. Please don't bring any books. Don't bring. Somebody to my last exam said we could bring a cheat sheet. Somebody bought the review sheet. Please, none of that. I don't know if most of you, this may be your first exam at the institute. Unfortunately, in the past, we have had some persons who did bring a cheat sheet or brought the book or continuously went into their phones. No cell phones are allowed. Just your keys and in your mask, and it's going to be recorded. Please, persons would have, don't bring your cell phone and put it on vibrate, because if it's on the desk in your bag, it'll vibrate. Or we've had those instances. if you are caught, on your phone or doing something that doesn't seem honest, I guess, in regards to the exam, you do have to go to counseling in order to retake the exam, and there is a $150 retake fee. And if you decide that you do not want to go to the counseling, then you would not be allowed to take any other class at the institute. Okay, so we've all worked hard. From the feedback, everybody seems to, have a basic understanding. This exam is definitely achievable. It's been done thousands of times, and I'm certain, everybody will be successful. I have seen that the same persons that do homework and they get 100% are not the same persons that show up to the exam. So once you make sure that the same person who has done your homework shows up to the exam, then you'll be okay. Okay? I know how it is with work in school, and so sometimes we get a little bit too much help, but I understand. But just ensure that you read over what you would have submitted as homework if you're going to use that for one of your questions.
Excuse me, Ms. Bullitt, you said just come with the mask and the key, so the institute is providing the pens and the paper.
Well, you can bring a pen. They'll provide the paper.
Okay.
Yeah, you can bring a pen. But again, we have the social distance and what have you, and so normally we put all the bags to the back together, and now we don't do that any longer. So please don't bring a bag, because we cannot, we don't have sufficient space to put everybody's bag. Do not bring a bag and do not bring a book.
Where would parking be?
Parking is, do you know where, what's the place that's closed down?
Graham Thompson parking lot.
Yeah, Graham Thompson parking lot. So it used to be
okay.
Taylor Industries, like between Taylor Industries and Graham Thompson.
I'm sorry, where's that? This is Elizabeth Avenue?
Yeah, opposite the hospital. So the first entrance to the hospital on Shirley Street, there's a little side corner where Taylor Industries used to be, and then there's a parking lot right there. So that's actually, what's the street? Victoria Avenue in.
Where you, where John Canoe? Okay. No, that's Elizabeth. Victoria's before, okay.
No, Victoria is before Elizabeth. So the Graham Thompson parking lot is on Victoria.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll find it.
Yeah, where the old Royal Bank, if you turn to the corner where Royal Bank used to be on the corner, and you come straight through, you'll end right up into the parking lot. It's on the end opposite
That's just the parking.
hospital. Yeah, that's just the parking. Then you
walk to Elizabeth Avenue.
Yeah, and then go upstairs, yes.
That's the corner that Dowswell Street starts on.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Good. Okay, so good. Are there any more questions? No? Okay. So question 1, Renita and Cassandra agreed to complete for us. So Renita, you want to start, or Cassandra, you want to start?
I could start.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, wait, which one you want me to do, AML or?
Yeah, so you do AML and then let Cassandra do terrorism.
It's Cassandra.
Oh, sorry, vice versa then.
Okay. So the definition of AML, I'm paraphrasing because that's how I plan on doing it in the exam. The process of concealing the origin of illicit property. The motivation for money laundering would be profit seeking. The means of obtaining funds would be illegal means from the predicate crime, like extortion, human trafficking, stuff like that. Their intention is to clean illegal money. Now, the terrorist financing and AML, they have similar methods, but for AML specifically, it's the placement stage, layering stage, and integration stage.
Yeah.
At the placement stage.
Right there, Cassandra, please do not, you can say that, but please do not write out placement is this, layering is that. Do not, because you won't get any points for that. Okay, not for this question.
Okay.
Okay, so, and you want to, get enough points. You won't get any points for those definitions and this question.
So we just list them out then.
You can list them out if you want to.
Okay.
You don't even have to.
Can she go over that again?
Sorry?
Can she go over that again?
Okay, go over that again, please.
With the definition and motivation, the whole thing.
Yeah, wherever you started, you said the motivation was profit seeking.
Okay, so the definition of money laundering, the process of concealing the origin of illicit property. The motivation would be profit seeking. The means of obtaining funds would be illegal means, mainly from the predicate crime like extortion, human trafficking, drug dealers, stuff like that. The intention is to clean illegal money. They have the 3 stages: the placement, layering, and the integration stage. And the main order we dealt with in class was the Proceeds of Crime Act, which basically talked about tipping off and failure to disclose.
Okay. Okay, very good.
Do I have to go
So
into that?
no, you don't. No, you don't. You will get points for the motivation. You will get points for the intention, the source of funding, the methods, and then the life cycle.
Okay.
Okay. Benita, terrorist financing. Is Renita there?
Yeah, sorry, just having no problems with my internet for some reason. Okay, terrorist financing. Much like money laundering, but they're sort of different. They do not necessarily have to use illegal funds to support them. They basically need these funds to recruit and support their members. And one of their main purposes is to, I'd say, bully or intimidate governments or organizations into, I guess, succumbing to what they want in terms of why they want to, whatever it is that their motive is. So
Objectives.
they basically just go in with their, the bombing and all those different things that they use or they do. So they really don't have a specific means of getting the funds. They're kind of more creative than the money laundering to me. Simply because, they seem to take care of their members to the point to actually, commit these crimes that they're trying to do, especially most of them are, like suicidal attempts as well. So they have unlawful sources, they have legitimate sources, and their methods is the same as the money laundering, because they use by the criminals that launder funds. They also use those as well, and that's basically it.
Okay, yeah. So when you talk about with the suicide of people, you want to explain that because it's ideological, it's their belief, that if you become a suicide bomber, when you die, your family will become rich. You will go I don't know if they believe in heaven, but you will go somewhere where you have virgins and the houses of gold and all sorts of foolishness that they believe. So if you talk about suicide bombing, you want to say it's because of their religious belief. Okay, good. And so give me an example. For example, who would you use as your example? You said in the beginning, they use legitimate and illegitimate ways. So give me a legitimate way that they could terrorist finance.
Charitable donations.
Okay.
Businesses or that's it.
Okay, so if you said, for example, via charitable, what you were going to research. Did you do the homework on terrorist financing?
No.
No? Okay, so if you're going to answer this question, I would look for an example either on the money laundering side or on the terrorist financing side. You don't have to have one on both.
Okay.
Ms. Bullard, for this question, if we wanted to mention something about terrorist financing, could we make note. I think I saw in a textbook, the Muhammad, I think he would have been working along with the Al-Qaeda operative when he was withdrawing the funds from the ATM. We could just touch on something like that. Or it has to
Yeah, you could. Don't let it be long and drawn out, but you just want to give an example to show your understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, good. Anybody else wants to add to that? And again, if you look on page 23 in your book,
terrorist financing still isn't quite clear with me. You have an easier way to explain it?
Okay, you want to look at page 23?
Okay, 1 second. Okay, I'm here.
Okay, so read first what it says on the terrorist financing. What is the motivation?
It's ideological.
Ideological, meaning it's a part of like their belief. They believe they would get, it's like Christianity to us.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and then what is their intention?
To intimidate a population or to compel a government or an international organization to do or abstain from doing any specific act due to threat of violence.
Okay, correct. So remember, 9/11, what they did is they flew the airplanes into the World Trade Centers in New York. You remember that?
Yeah.
Okay, and so again, they had to raise money in order to, I think these, the guys who did it, they actually went to flight school, and from birth, they were selected to carry out this terrorist act. And so, it's just like we go to church and we pay our tithes. You are persons that legitimately sponsor them. Remember when we would have read the article at the back of the book, it said somebody went and got a loan. Somebody went and used their social service payments. Some guy robbed the store, and then somebody else saved. Just like we believe in Christianity, they believe in Islam. Okay, and so just how we pay their tithes, that's their way of paying their tithes. Okay, so think about bin Laden. Bin Laden would have lived after the World Trade Center bombings. He would have lived for 10 years. Okay, so how did he live? Persons had to finance him because he had wives, he had children, he lived in a 2-story house that looked like it had air conditioned. They probably ate steaks and lobsters every day, and he needed insulin. So how did he accomplish all of that if he could not walk into a bank and open up an account anywhere, and he did not have a job? So somebody would have financed him, correct?
Yes.
Right. So does that make it clearer or no?
I'll try to go over it again once I review and see if it's a bit clearer to me.
Right. And then if let's just say like how it's a pandemic and all the hotel people ain't working, so they can't pay their tithes right now, right? There's no 10% to give unless they're giving it out the NID check, right? Right? And 10% is only $20, whereas some of these hotel workers was making $700-800 a week. So the contribution has decreased. And so they resort to unlawful sources. So they kidnap people, they drug traffic. In parts of Islam, Iran or Afghanistan, there are various camps and communities that do not support, the ISIS and what have you. And so they say, you want to get to the food store, we can charge you a tax. To walk past us, think about you going to the Marathon Mall or to Super Value. If you want to get into Super Value, you have to pay us $10. So they illegitimately tax the people as if, they are the government, and they're not. Okay? So that's where the unlawful sources or the illegitimate sources come in, or they kidnap your child and say, you know, pay us $5,000 or you don't get your son back, or they just steal it. They rob you, you know, you may be on your way to work.
Good.
Yeah.
Is this question number 3, domestic terrorism? Is that the one they were doing, terrorist financing motivation?
No, we're still on question 1.
This was question 1?
Yeah.
Okay, because I heard somebody say motivation. Okay.
No, what happened was, I think that was Sierra, right? Sierra, you were saying that you're not clear.
Yeah.
Can anybody, so can anybody else add something else to see if they can help Sierra?
I think what happens with financial financing, they try to get their funds through the legitimate financial services to different operatives throughout the world. So it's like good money. So that's how the counter-terrorists trace the money to see where the money is going. So they use it more so they trace it to see how the money is used throughout the system. Like how you say with Ben Laden, he didn't work and everything, so they do a paper trail to see money getting to him.
But also, terrorists also use non-financial systems to get their monies. So
Yeah.
that's a part of it as well.
Yeah, so there's something called Hawala Payments.
Yes.
Where it's back like into the olden days, and most of you wasn't born yet, but where they use the barter system.
It's called Hawala.
Hawala.
The reason why they're basically untraceable is because they don't use a lot of technology. The only way they use technology is to send like emails to say, well, who the money is going to. Hawala, they work like this. So it's based on trust. It's a trust system that was developed in the Middle East. And so, for example, if you immigrated from India, right, and you want to send monies to your family back to India, what they do is they find Hawala, which is the person who sends money back to the next Hawala in India. So the money is like it's a system where there is
exchange without cash.
Yes, yes. So it's like a code or an email that they send. They only use telephones and emails. They use a ledger as well to say, basically keep track of their transactions, but it's not kept for a long period of time.
Right. And so if you have bread in India, you will give my family bread. And if you have family or you need something from the US, I will, make sure, like if your child is in the US and I'm in the US, I'll pay her school fees whilst you give my family bread or food or free groceries
in
India.
Equal amount.
Yeah. So it's like a barter and exchange barter system. Like back in the day.
Back in the day, like you trade in. Remember? Yeah. Like remember all the trading persons were along the coastline. So if you wanted to get some vegetable seeds or whatever, you travel, you walk with your donkeys or whatever, and you go and you get what you need and you return back home. And vice versa. Whatever you have that's marketable, people are going to come to you and get it.
Okay, but that really Hawala Payments, we leave that for ICA, just for just know the basics, the intention, the source of funding, the method, the life cycle, and then have an example. Okay, fairly easy question. Most persons choose to answer that.
Yeah.
But all of that information that was just given for terrorist financing.
Yeah, the motivation is profit seeking for money laundering and ideological for terrorist financing.
That's very closely related to question number 4.
Yeah, but the question, question number 4, what was the question that this says compare and contrast? Okay. Right? I can't give you the exact question.
No, number 4 says IMF disaster relief. Bahamas.
Sorry, that's number 3.
Yeah, but it'll be
now.
It'll be, okay, you will see that some of the questions will overlap and you may be able to use some information, but it'll be a totally, you can't just copy and paste the first answer. You won't get points. You'll get points for, you know, the part that is applicable, but it's gonna be a specific question, you know? And like I said, if this question is on the test, more than likely the next question will be on domestic terrorism.
Okay.
Okay, Meryl is saying she can't hear. Meryl, anybody else you want to contact Miguel and find out? I don't know. You may want to sign out and sign back in. Let me type that. Everybody else can hear. Stephanie is still there.
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, so Meryl, let me type to Meryl. Okay, Meryl. Okay, good. Any questions? No? Okay, we can move on to question 2. Yes, okay. Patricia and Sierra, question 2.
Okay,
I was
so
a little
question
confused.
2.
Can Sierra answer, please?
Okay, I'll try my best.
Okay.
Question 2 says the fines for tipping off and failing to disclose. So in one of my essays, I did the FATF essay, and I used an example with a bank. I knew a certain situation where the teller knew the client was actually laundering money. And so, you know, once you go to open up an account with a bank, they would normally ask you, okay, what's you have to fill in what's your monthly anticipated activity. So that's basically meaning based on your salary, what's the amount you're going to be running through your account. And I guess the client would have ticked, I guess, between 500 to 1,000. And he was coming into the bank just about every day, and he was depositing 9,900. Now, if you aren't familiar, once you come into the bank and you make you make cash deposits totaling over 10,000, you're going to incur 1% of the whole deposit. So he would keep depositing 99, 99, 99, and then he does it on a daily basis.
And Sierra, sorry, let me just interrupt you. Do you know that there's a name, or there's a terminology for what he is doing? Are you aware of what it is?
Laundering money?
Are you
No, it's
referring
called
to staying under the threshold?
Yeah.
Structuring.
Sorry?
Structuring.
No, it's called smurfing.
Yeah, person. Yeah, I heard that.
It's called smurfing.
What's the name?
Smurfing.
Smurfing. Oh.
Yeah. So what they do is if they know the threshold is 10,000, they give 99.
Yeah.
If with the cash, when it was 5,000, they gave 499. They increased it to 10, they went to 99. Now it's 50 and they had 40 and 99. So you call it smurfing. And your institution should have a system in the background that shows that Ms. Bullitt made 4 transactions at this amount and to stay below the threshold, and they add it together, and then they call, you have to call Ms. Bullitt in to declare the source of funds, or they freeze the account. Okay, so smurfing. Yeah. But remember I said this question, and Patricia, I'm surprised that you were confused. Why were you confused? We covered this in TOCA, and I specifically said that this was
Honestly,
a multiple choice question. So all you had to do is go to the POCA and pull out the fine.
Yeah, but it said fines and you said 10. So I was like, but I don't see 10 fines here.
No, but I didn't say 10 fines. I said 10 points for each question, but this particular question is a multiple choice question. So this is a multiple choice. You just have to know what the fine is.
That's why I was confused, Ms. Bullitt. I'm sorry. I did see the fines, but I was thinking, what the hell am I gonna write with this for 10 points? That's why
I said you could, once you know the fine, and
well, I have an easier way to word it. a shorter way.
You have an easier way to do what, Sierra?
No, she was saying she wasn't sure on how she's going to write all of that, but I was just basically gonna say what the fine is.
Right, so you need to know what the fine is. There's nothing to write. It is not in the essay. I said that
Oh.
if you
I know
right,
what the
so it's-
fines are, Miss Fuller. I just didn't
Okay.
understand how 10 points would come out of this fine. That was my confusion.
It could be applicable. A lot of people add it in their question, like if they answered a question on money laundering, you know,
Right.
they said, and these tipping off is, you know, and they write out what tipping off is and they put the fine. So, but there's not a specific question. That's why I said it's multiple choice. But
I missed that.
even though I say this 100% of the time, most of the people get these questions wrong because they get confused. The fine is very close on the exam, and if you don't know it, you get it wrong. So that's why I added it to the review sheet, because 89% of the people get it wrong.
I
So
think
you would
mentioned
basically,
before,
this would be a multiple choice question then, Ms. Fuller. This isn't like how you said, list 10 points. I would have just told you what the fines is. Sorry.
Okay. Tell us what the fines is then.
Oh, God. Hang on.
I can't finish my story.
Go ahead,
$50,000.
Sierra. Sorry. Go ahead then. I mean, yeah, that's fine. Sierra, you know what the fines are, so
Yes.
Patricia don't have to look it up.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay, Patricia. Sierra, let us know.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Sierra.
So he was smurfing, the client was smurfing. And even though he was cutting his deposit 99 short, what he did was he say, like, if you have more than one account with us, you would usually deposit on one account or whatever. So he would come into the bank with like 20,000 and he would split it. So he put 99 on one account and a difference on the other. So basically saying he basically got over 10,000. Over 10,000 on his accounts, but he beat the system. He didn't get the charge or whatever, and he did this on a daily basis. The teller was actually telling him, "Hey, they watching your account. You shouldn't be doing
tipping
this."
off.
That's tipping off.
Huh?
Tipping off.
I know you.
I said tipping
Yeah.
off.
yeah,
So he was,
job.
yeah. So the teller was actually, I guess, on his side, knowing what he was doing. Of course, the compliance team, they usually require you to fill out unusual transaction report. We call it a UTR. And the teller would have covered their self. So they would still be tipping off to the client, and they on the inside end, they would still fill out a UTR to cover themselves, to say, okay, well, I know the client depositing funds, but I'm gonna still cover myself by filling out this report to make it look like, I'm not telling him nothing or whatever. And comes to find out a couple of years later, the client actually got arrested for laundering money and fined. The teller at that point didn't lose their job because they would have covered their self by filling out that report each time he would have completed that transaction. But I would say they got away by, it was kind of shocking to me that they didn't get in trouble for doing it. But like I tell you, these people are smart, and sometimes the tellers, they actually inform, they actually tip, or like they actually do the tipping off, and they would let the client know, well, you shouldn't be doing this, and and people smart too. And of course the clients, that they sometimes, most of them confide in the teller because, hey, they work there and they know how the system goes. So yeah, that's basically the tipping off. That's a little scenario I guess y'all could use in the exam, for example, for tipping off. But according to Section 44, the tipping off, the penalty is a punishment on summary conviction, a term of 3 years imprisonment or fine of 50,000.
No.
I thought it's 7 years.
7 years.
Yeah.
In section 44, it is section,
Oh, I look into my.
12. You're looking at
It's
POCA
12,
218?
It's 12 to 14, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's the Proceeds of the Crime Act 2018.
Yeah, look at
Yes.
the proceeds of crime 2018, and in section 44 is section
Hello?
12
Yeah.
I think section 15 in the POCA
is the
What?
penalties.
is the penalties.
Yeah. So 12 and 14 is the one is tipping off and one is failing to disclose. So you look at section 15, number 2. Number 1 is the penalty for the previous
Yeah, 9
from 12
to
to 14.
11.
So number 2 is the penalty.
What page you on?
Page
So
19 and 20.
reading is wrong.
Where are you looking?
POCA 2018, page 19 and 20.
Oh, this is in the Dexy.
No,
No.
you actually had to remember. I pull it up. Let me pull it up on the screen so we can look at it.
So this research I got from Bahamas.gov is wrong.
It outdated.
You looked at POCA
Look
218.
look at it.
Okay.
Go
Probably
start
50,000
from page,
you're looking at.
it starts from page, listen, it's money laundering headline. It starts from page 16 to, well, that's what I did. I printed out 16 to 20. That's what I printed out, right? And we're looking, you're
What you
looking,
mean on the Proceeds of Crime Act?
yes. I just
Okay,
printed out the
remember-
pages that I would need, 16 to 20.
Remember we went over this in class when we talked about the laws?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Right.
here it is. And remember I said, if you go on the internet, sometimes it pulls up the 2000 law. Make sure you look at the 218. So
Mhm.
failure to disclose is section 12. You see the
Yes,
screen?
yeah.
Okay. And then failure to disclose by nominated officer and then tipping off. So it says a person commits an offense under section 9011. So 9011 is part 1 and 12 to 14. Remember?
Yeah.
12 is failure to disclose and 14 is tipping off. So we want to look at this penalty right here. And that's the correct answer. Okay, everybody is getting this wrong on the multiple choice. So just y'all make sure they get
Is the
this wrong.
$500,000
show
for
up.
the summary conviction and the indictment? That's what I didn't understand.
What was your question?
The $500,000 it says on summary conviction, imprisonment for a term not exceeding 7 years or to a fine not exceeding $500,000. For the conviction and indictment, it doesn't say what the fine is, or is it just talking about the 500,000?
Yeah, but
No, it says
okay.
imprisonment for a term not exceeding 20 years or to a fine or to both.
But it don't tell us what the fine is.
Yeah, but it shouldn't exceed $500,000.
Okay.
Yeah, so the judge could decide what it'll be.
Oh, I'm confused. So what is the 12 years, Ms. Bullard? I'm reading your note.
It says summary conviction
Correct.
and then conviction. So when you have persons are charged like with 54 counts of this or what have you,
Mm-hmm.
it depends on like what crime they committed. You could, I guess, Google to see the difference exactly between summary conviction and then conviction. Okay, but the exam will only give you one of these scenarios.
Okay.
It'll say 12 years or 500,000, 20 years or 500. It won't ask you summary conviction versus conviction.
Okay.
Hey, Miss Bullet, I just noticed something.
Okay.
It's saying that the penalties for sections 9 to 11, but failure to disclose and tipping off come under section 12 to 14.
Yeah, so number 1 is 9011. Number 2 It's 12 to 14. That's
So
why I
in this
said,
case, wouldn't it be 12 years, not 7?
who said 7?
Was for the first one, not for the tipping off, for the failure to disclose.
The penalty is the same for both.
But it's 12 years.
Who said, where did you
For
get
summary
7 from?
conviction, for summary conviction,
Yeah.
I'm seeing for summary conviction
Where are you
7
seeing that?
years.
Because this is the actual law.
For disclosure, for penalties, under penalties, excuse me, that's 9 to 11. 9 to 11, for penalties, is 7 years.
Where do you see that?
That's what I'm seeing.
Where?
Number
Where?
1.
Page
That's
20.
penalties 1A.
Yeah.
Page
So
20.
That's, yeah, page 20. It's the top of page 20.
I don't have that on the top of page 20.
Yeah,
Yeah, and on the screen too.
look at
You know-
9.
It say a person who commits an offense under sections 9 to 11 is liable on summary conviction to imprisonment for 7 years.
Yeah, but that's for 9 to 11.
Yeah,
Remember
that's
I
what
showed
I
you. This tipping off is 14 and failure to disclose is 12. See? 12.
Okay, so it's 12 years or up to 500,000.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, and it says summary offenses are less serious than indictable offenses. A judge has summary conviction cases in provincial court. A person charged with a summary conviction offense is usually not arrested unless the accused is found committing the offense. A person charged with an indictable offense must show up in court. So I guess if you're not charged, they can still give you a fine. Or they could still fine the company. So we all clear now?
What you are saying, what's on the screen is in the book? That's what you were saying, Ms. Fuller?
No, not in the
This
book.
is the
No, it's not.
Poker, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, see? I took you straight there. Proceeds of Crime Act 218.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, that's why we went over this in class, so you would know exactly where to get it from. There's lots of stuff on the internet, and then there's lots of things that are not updated. And just like with the FATF, a lot of things are not updated. That's why I said the most important thing is when you look at a piece of law, look at the date. Okay, and if you read an article, look at the date the article is written, and stop reading it and go to one after 2008, because the articles before are good, but all the information has been changed. Okay, so always check the date, because remember I told you somebody, they did their entire homework on the Proceeds of Crime Act 2000. Then they went to the exam and wrote the CMSA, even after I told them they used the wrong year. Okay, so just be careful of that. Okay, okay, again, just the multiple choice questions when it comes to poker. Okay, great. Erica, Wood, and Stephanie. Stephanie, you wanna go? I don't.
Okay. Okay, terrorist financing motivation. Okay. Basically, the terrorists or the terrorist organization want to get funds so they could carry out their terrorist attacks, and their ideology is based on ideology. So it could be economics, it could be socio-economics, like the Columbia Guerrilla Group. They wanted people versus the government, the power. They want to have equality or it could be religious, like Bin Laden is radical Islam, jihad, and then you have the Proud Boys. I heard they just got on to the terrorist group, who did the attack in America, the insurrection with Trump's nationalists who want who anti-foreigners. So they are some of the reasons they attack. They form these groups, these terrorist groups.
Okay, and if you talk about those groups, you have a little overview of who they is and what they did in support of this terrorism question.
Yes, you have the like ISIS, Jihad, radical Muslims, and then you have individuals too who are radical Islams, are Muslims, and then you have neo-Nazis like the Proud Boys who are anti-foreigners or white supremacists into the terrorist group. So it's basically there's all different types based on their ideology. And
Right.
then they find ways to fund, to get monies, whether it's legal or illegal, so they can carry out their attacks.
Okay, yeah, very good. So you would always, no matter what terrorist question you have, you'd always get points for saying legitimate versus illegitimate ways and providing an example of one. Then the motivation, or it's ideological. This is a part of their belief. They believe that it's like Christianity, and of course the insurrection just happened, and that's very current. And so if you have a small overview on the Proud Boys and what they did and why we consider that to be terrorism, that's a good one for domestic terrorism as well.
Yes, because
Right.
they just Canada just added them to the list of their 13, but that
Okay.
was questionable because they were
Oh,
questionable. They were questionable
was
whether
What's
they
the
are
name?
terrorists or not. Proud Boys.
Power Boy.
Proud.
Proud.
PROUD boys.
Oh.
Oh, thank
Right.
you.
TROUD?
Yes. And so when we talk about domestic, again, like I said, we are right next door to America. So we know that in 2019, it's only 365 days in the year, and there were more than 365 acts of terrorism during 2019. So you can talk about that. And then if you want to bring the Bahamas in, you can talk about what happened in Fox Hill a few years ago, where they shot up the park and 8 persons died. And then I guess more recently, what happened in Montel Heights, where it was a baby shower and 13 persons got shot. Okay, or even at Commonwealth Bank when we were at the beginning of the pandemic and somebody sneezed all over the breakfast items that they were giving out. He was arrested, and I don't think anything came out of it, but they had threatened to charge him with terrorism.
Mm-hmm. So the
Did
gangs
he
are terrorists.
sneeze over the food?
Yes.
He did
this
either
pandemic.
cough or sneeze or something to that effect, and then said he had COVID.
They should have shot him.
But is that
Yeah,
terrorist?
whenever it affects a group, it could affect a group of people. So if he indeed had COVID, he would have infected, let's say 25 people would have eaten from that, free food that was being offered to the
Or
bank.
more.
So
But
you
he
walk
was-
in the bank and cookies and tea there, people will take it.
But you think he had he just is mean or evil? You don't think he had a purpose? He wanted to achieve something from doing that? I mean, we want to save people to COVID.
whether you have a purpose or you want to achieve something, whenever you affect a group of people like that,
That's
you attack
terrorism.
terrorism.
Threat or harm. That's terrorism.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
So, Ms.
Right,
Bullard,
that's what
for
they
this
charge
question-
you with. So whether you have an agenda or not,
mhm.
that's what you get in charge with.
So when they get the gangs, they have to charge the gangs with terrorism too, eh?
Well, if the gang is implicated in that murder, a group murdering a group of people or harming a group of people, yeah.
Mhm.
Ms.
Like
Bullard,
for
in
the
this
Fox
question,
Hill Park, there was a gang leader who they charged.
Oh, and they charge
Unfortunately,
him with-
after they locked him up, he was dead in 1 week.
Oh. And
So
did they charge him with domestic terrorists?
I can't say because that happened. When did that happen? I think that happened in 2018
Oh,
or
okay.
2017. Yeah, I'm not certain. I could probably have to Google it and see what they charged him with. But in your research, Google it and see if And again, like I said, we are being internationally watched, and for the first time, politicians would have been brought before the court. So I don't remember anybody being charged with terrorism in those cases. But I can tell you now, if that Montel Heights shooting happened today, they would be charged with terrorism. In fact, he might have been. So you could Google it and see what they charged him with.
Okay.
Okay, good. Somebody else was saying something? Okay, but the key to the terrorism question, you wanna include their motivation, their objectives. It may ask you something about the Bahamas, and you want at least one example in there to tie it all in. But make sure you read the question carefully and answer it based on what it's asking. Don't go and copy question one and thinking you are able to use some of the points from question one and question three, but don't do a copy and paste. Or I've seen people rewrite the same thing and just pray that they get some points. Okay. Another thing is only 7 questions will be marked. Some people try to do all 10 and say, give us the highest point. We will only mark the first 7 that you complete.
You want me to say?
Ms. Bella.
Oh, no, strategically.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
So this question I was asking.
Want me to speak to the
Wait, 1 second. I can't. Somebody said something, but I didn't hear them. They got cut off.
I was saying if you wanted me to speak to domestic terrorism.
Only if you up to it. If not, we can move on. I know you sent me an email previously.
I can say some stuff because I noticed that some stuff left out. There's a little bit of difference between domestic terrorism.
Okay.
What I have here is the international terrorists. What they do is they make some kind of connection with persons who probably have tendencies towards the religions in the Middle East. And what they do is, if the person is not able to travel to the Middle East, they encourage them to act on their country's soil, whether it's the US or some other parts of the world. According to the Patriot Act, under the 2001 US Patriot Act, domestic terrorism is defined as an activity that involves an act dangerous to human life that are a violation of the criminal laws of the US or any country or state. It appears to be intended to intimidate a civilization or population and civilians. I have civilians here. To influence the policies of the government. Domestic terrorists are normally homegrown persons who decide to act for various reasons. I have here a case because domestic terrorism, they normally use weapons for like firearms and explosives and some devices that are triggered with cell phones, and they also use vehicles. And then with this case, with the firearm, I want to give this example. On December 2nd, 2015 in California, it was this couple, this husband and wife. The man name was Sadid and his wife name was Stefan. They opened fire on his co-workers. They killed 14 people and injured 22. And they were subsequently killed by the police. This is the part what I found so amazing was that how he funded his domestic terrorist act. He used his personal salary to purchase guns. He took out a personal loan in the amount of $28,500. The loan was provided by an online peer-to-peer lender that matches investors with borrowers. there was no indicators identified by the lender to say that Sadiq had this type of intentions, so therefore the loan was approved. And the article also spoke about his employment profile. He was credit worthy, a model employee, and those were the reasons, and he had great credit, and those were the reasons why the loan was approved. Now, for me, when I read that, I found it very amazing that somebody so outside the profile of a domestic terrorist was able to secure a loan and commit this heinous crime against his fellow employees. They never said the reason why, but they also alluded to the fact that he was recruited by ISIS, and that he was when they raided his home, they found a lot of paraphernalia, a lot of books, a lot of videos. So he, up to that terrorist act, he was just constantly watching these images and these indoctrination videos over and over and over again. Nobody noticed any change in his behavior or in his job, nothing. There was no indication that he could have done this. So it was very surprising to family members and the persons who knew him. And then I have
yes, if you include that, you just want to scale that down. Very relevant story, but let me just tell you, just how I continuously say go and do research. This is what the terrorists are doing. Bin Laden lived for 10 years because they had already studied what systems were in place. They know that the banks don't like to spend money. Governments don't spend money, and they actually leverage off our, I guess, inability to do research, read all these different things. And so they found a way to support Bin Laden for those 10 years, and they stayed underneath the radar. Okay? And so
Ms. Fuller, do you think the online lenders, with regards to their KYC, do you think there was anything that they could have possibly done?
But you were required to know your customer, okay? And America lives on credit. So when you see that persons are they actually have a good credit and they could qualify for a loan, that should be a red flag. Because America, they live on credit. So now you find somebody who you can't, like I say, you cannot eliminate risk. And these people are smarter than us, and then they're also more patient than we are. And so they leverage on the ability that we don't like to be overworked and underpaid. And then they leverage on that we don't like to read, that the banks will not put the proper systems in place, and then that the banks have these ridiculous quotas that or targets that each of these relationship managers have to reach. And so therefore some of them, I'm telling you, I've seen salespeople, they smoke cigarettes all day, they drink CBD tea, they walk up and down, or they are highly stressed and under lots of pressure. And so a lot of them compromise themselves. Okay, and so that's what these terrorists leverage on. And then, like I say, most of these people are trained for years, to carry out these type of attacks. So this doesn't happen overnight. Bin Laden worked for the US government as a CIA. And, there's a conspiracy theory that he worked at the Royal Mint that prints the money. And, people say he looked at the money, and that's how he made the decision that it was the Twin Towers that he was going to ride the planes into. But from those boys were born, they were, trained, treated like kings, sent to flight school, was taught to save their money and to be disciplined, and taught survival so they could carry out. And then it was, I guess, put in there, they were brainwashed to be taught that once you carry this out, your wife or your mother or father will be rich and you'll go to, I guess, heaven. So it took years. And so they do everything outside the box. Everything that the average or normal man would not look at or would not take the time to find out, That's what they do, and that's why they're always successful. In fact, I was at an industry briefing, and I think it was when the DARE bill was coming out, um, or the beneficial owners bill was coming out, and somebody stood up and they said, "Could you send all the new law and legislation and the guidelines out to the industry first before you put it out to the public? Because we are overworked and underpaid. We don't have time to sit down and read this bill, and then we have to convince our employers to put systems in place to help us carry out the task. And by that time, the person who is sitting down all day in a room trying to hack the system or terrorist finance, they know what the law says, and so they already have a workaround. They already know, okay, this is what the bank is going to check for. This is what I'm going to go under this threshold or what have you. And a lot of times they're successful. So that person stood up and said, could you send it to the industry so at least we have sufficient time to study it, to understand it, and to think about, possibilities or probabilities that, how they will try and infiltrate our system, or how the terrorists will stay below the thresholds, or, what they'll do. So the regulators and the lawmakers are way behind. And then some of them, like Bin Laden, who worked for the US government, already know how the system works. So we had a disadvantage. That's why I said, do your work properly, because that's the only way to really save yourself. If you understand your job and the risk that comes along with it, and you put controls in place, then you would be okay. But if you continuously overwork and underpaid, people are leveraging on that and using that against you to infiltrate the system. Okay, so Meryl always also asked if she could use the Boston Marathon bombing. Yes, it's relevant for domestic terrorism. Any of those bombings or killings that happen in America is fine. You can use as an example. Okay, sorry, Erica, you wanted to say something else?
Well, their main motivation is to perpetrate plans of violence on population in which they're living in. So if you're in the United States and you live in New York, and you will perpetrate on the civilians in New York or a building. I looked at religious domestic terrorism as well as anti-abortion, because even with that, persons with anti-abortion clinics, persons who even giving counseling to persons who are considering having abortions in America, there have been cases where persons were murdered, they were assaulted, even kidnapped. So I looked at some of that as well.
Okay, good. Okay, so now we want to scale all of that down.
Yeah, right. I gotta choose which one.
One page, one example. Don't miss the motivation. Don't miss the objective. They do this to recruit, to train, to travel. Illegitimate versus legitimate. Any example, and you're good. Okay, but don't overdo it, because I see when persons go on 3-4 pages in the exam, they miss the point. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Very good, Erica and Stephanie. Thank you. Jason, number 4.
Hi.
Hi.
Number 4, an IMF relief Bahamas. Okay, so the IMF and the government have been communicating ever since the I think the first disaster was first major disaster we had was Matthew. And since then, they've been discussing new legislation. The IMF has commended the government on initiating the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2018. And this act was to ensure secure fiscal sustainability and to decrease national debt. And everything the IMF is doing with the Bahamas is the Bahamas can be in good standing with them when we need funding for this.
No, now we want to scale it down, Jason. We don't need extras because that's already that's a good introduction, but you get like 2 points.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
don't run
I
on
just
with
wanted
all
to
of that.
explain it.
Yeah.
So it's just new. So the first one, I guess, would be new new acts, new legislation. Sorry, not new acts, new legislations. Creation of a disaster relief fund. I guess that would be 2.
And so
Establishment.
what happened then?
Pardon?
What did they do?
Okay, so the disaster relief fund was to help with the risk reduction policy, and I need to research that.
No, you don't. No, you don't. Forget about that.
But the creation of the disaster relief fund was one of the initiatives by the IMF with the Bahamas government. So that's another one. And then
No. You want points, right?
Yes.
Or you giving me too much fluff.
Oh.
What you said in the opening was sufficient for an introduction.
Okay.
That's your 2 points. You haven't gone anymore. All the rest of that. Now, if you want to study that so you are aware, that's very good. But for the purpose of this exam, stick to the disaster relief and Hurricane Dorian.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay. So when you say stick to disaster relief and Hurricane Dorian and I guess the pandemic. So when I researched this, I researched all of these things leading up to those things. That's why I was talking about the creation of these other things.
Right, but remember now, this is gonna be a specific question in the exam. It only is 10 points. You're not gonna get the 2 major things that happened was Hurricane Dorian,
right,
and the pandemic. One of the questions may be so specific that it only asks about Hurricane Dorian.
Oh.
Because remember, we covered that in class. The next one may only ask about the pandemic.
Okay.
Okay, so do you know what happened with Hurricane Dorian?
Specifically, I know from what I read, the IMF and the Bahamas government after Dorian, they would have come to, the IMF proposed a loan to the government up to 250 plus million.
Yeah, so that was after Dorian. What happened before Dorian?
The sovereign insurance against natural disasters.
Yeah, so they asked us, we talked about this. They asked us to update our disaster relief plan, correct?
Yes.
Right, I mentioned the disaster relief initiative.
Do you know what we did to satisfy that?
Insurance.
Yeah, we did the insurance. We did. Remember when we talked about the dormant funds?
Right. Is that when they used the dormant fund?
Yeah.
From Central Bank?
Yeah. So we used the dormant funds. We engaged the insurance for $900,000, and then we got the loan from the IDB.
Yeah, the credit line.
Oh.
Yeah. You remember that?
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
What was the third point?
You said the dormant fund.
Okay, so let me just give you a backstory. I think we had covered this in one of the classes. So under the PLP, we had Hurricane Joaquin and Hurricane Matthew, and at that time we had the insurance, the Caribbean insurance, and we had claimed against the Caribbean insurance, and they said that for Matthew they couldn't pay us because we didn't have excessive rain, and for Joaquin they could not pay us because it was not a category 5. And so the PLP government said, we'll never be able to claim on this insurance. What is the probability of this happening? We're going to put this $900,000 $100,000 to better use. We're not going to get this insurance anymore. So they canceled the insurance.
Mhm.
When the IMF came in December, they said, okay, fine, you cancel the insurance, but you need to engage, you need an action plan. So if there's a natural disaster, what will happen? And so they explained why we canceled the insurance. They said, well, you come up with an action plan. So the F&M, and this could have been in December of 2018. So the government then said, okay, we will re-engage the insurance for $900,000. We have $88 million in dormant funds. We're going to change the law and say it's not going to be, you only have up to 10 years. And at that time, they said at least $44 million will be available if they capped it off at 10 years. And then they went to the IDB and they got a line of credit.
Yeah.
I think $1 million line of credit in the event there was a disaster. So the IMF was satisfied. I think they would have put all that into place early 2019. What happened in September of 2019?
Dorian.
The Dorian. Hurricane
Correct.
Dorian. Yeah.
Correct. So 6 months earlier, we would not have that insurance. We would not have had the IDB loan, and we would not have had the dormant funds being capped at 10 years, so we could be able to use the 44 million. And so that's why Peter Turngress was able to tell them, no, thank you. We had no trouble collecting. We collect 40 million, I think, for excessive rain, and 1 million, and 11 million for, or vice versa for category 5. So we were able to collect on the two sides of the insurance. And then we had the line of credit and we had the dormant funds. So that's
why
we
they
were able
declined
to
the
tell
250 million then.
Sorry?
So that's why they declined the 250
Yes.
million.
Yes, that's why they declined it.
I thought it was 40 million, not 44.
No, it was 88 million in there. They said they would use half. You could Google it. I don't have the exact amount.
Yeah, after the 10 years, I did the legislation for 10 years. I think they had 40, it was 40 plus million.
Yeah, so they said they had $88 million and they would use half, which would have been 44 million, but you don't have to worry about the exact amount. You could put 40 plus. Okay, again, the whole purpose is to just show that you understand. You don't have to be specific, but you want to scale down and put in the points.
Oh, I thought you wanted all of the IMF initiatives that were going on. That's what I thought you meant.
No, only disaster relief.
Yeah, okay.
And then we covered this in the class. So I thought it would have been familiar.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so that's the easiest way to answer it is with that. If you select this question, it's with Hurricane Dorian.
Okay.
The pandemic has more bells and whistles with it, and it's still ongoing. Okay, because it'll probably ask you why was this important in 2018? Because in 2019 or later on that year, is a good thing. The regulators are normally seen as they don't work with us. The more rules we put in place, the more they come behind us, and ask for more. And so this was a time, where they showed, where we listened to them and we acted swiftly, and it was beneficial to us.
All right. I think I got it now.
Sorry. I didn't hear you, Jason.
No. I was thanking you.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. I hope this isn't overwhelming. I hope you're finding this beneficial, but I just want you to, make sure you put the meat, because it's so comprehensive, we sometimes will run on and on and on and miss the points.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you too. But please do read and continue to read so you have all the details. But just for the purposes of this exam, that's all you need.
Okay.
Okay, great. Good. Any other questions for question 4?
You will include the fiscal financial bill in that also?
Which bill is that?
The fiscal
The physical financial bill?
Yes, when they,
You mean the fiscal responsibility?
yes.
You could.
Well, that was just one of the legislations that IMF encouraged the government to put forth.
Okay, but you don't want to go on too much about the whole purpose is
Mhm.
what happened with Dorian. What did they do?
Right. Okay. So that's the Dormant Fund, creation of the Dormant Fund. Did they had to pass this in Parliament for the Dormant Fund, right? Was that new legislation?
I know there was a white paper out already suggesting that we kept it off, and I can't tell you at what point it was passed. But you don't have to worry so much about the legislation. You just have to say this was the action plan.
This was the
It was
action plan.
threefold, and this was the three things that they proposed.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. So,
Okay. Any other questions? So we could go on to number 5.
You said they refused the loan. The IMF had offered a loan then.
Afterwards.
afterwards they
Yeah,
had offered.
after Dorian happened, like say 6 months later, then
Yeah.
they came back and they said, do you want a loan as well? Even though
Okay.
you had the action plan in place and you are using the dormant funds and using the line of credit and you claimed already from the insurance, if you need additional assistance, we will offer you this. But
So if we didn't have those things in place, they wouldn't have offered that.
Right, correct.
Okay. Thank
Correct.
you.
Okay. Okay. Guess we could go on to number 5 now.
Okay, great. Renee, is Renee there?
I don't see her.
I see her there, but I don't know if she can.
Oh yeah, I see her.
I don't know. Renee, are you there?
Hello?
Hi.
Hello. Oh, yes.
How are
Good
you?
evening. Fine. Yeah, Miss Bullard, was I think I was looking at the wrong things with the question. But was my question, because I looked at the email and then the question I'm looking at was the one from out the book, but you sent an email with these questions because I'm hearing the first questions now. I'm thinking I did the wrong thing, other than I do have information on the Caribbean Action Task Force group.
So you
So I
didn't
looked,
get the review sheet?
no, that's what I was checking through the email. So I was thinking you meant those questions that were under the appendix.
Okay. Did
But
anybody else?
so I have, so actually that was only asking an opinion in terms of if new legislation was needed. So, but my question that you actually had on the review sheet, I could still attempt it with the information I have.
What's your email address? Because I want to ensure that you have the review sheet.
Okay. Usually the one that goes directly to me is RENEETUCKER07@gmail.com.
Renee Tucker 07 at gmail.
gmail.com.
Okay. Let me just see.
So,
here.
I think Miguel sent something through my work email before with the link. But I looked through the email and I didn't see the review question. So I was thinking you meant the ones that was in the book.
Okay.
I mean, I looked, So I was basically going through what we would have enacted recently with the changes in the upgrade in 2018.
Sorry, yeah, it's RENNEE.
No, RENEE.
RENEE.
TUCK, yeah.
07@gmail.com. Remember, I was saying that because that's what you selected for your homework question.
Right. So my homework was the one about the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force.
Right, and that's what number 5 is about as well. I sent you the email.
Okay.
Did you receive it?
You mean the email you just sent?
Yeah, I just sent it just now.
Okay. Okay, let me check.
Because number 5 says FATF task, FATF current events in the Bahamas, which requires research.
FATF current events in the Bahamas.
Yeah, which requires research. And I think you did the homework on the task.
Oh, yeah, I did. Okay, so let me, yeah, basically I was given overview of what led to the Action Task Force.
Okay.
Okay, which would have been the meetings initially during the early 90s with members of Aruba for the representative of the Western Hemisphere countries, and basically the recommendations that came out of that meeting and the one in Jamaica, resulting in 19 recommendations towards the Caribbean Action Task Force group, and resulting in members agreeing to implement convention against drug and narcotics trafficking to fulfill the obligations that were expressed in the Kingston Declaration, as well as Plan of Action Summit of the Americas, and to adopt and implement measures for the prevention and control and proceeds of serious crimes.
Okay. When we talk about tasks, we want to just, use the book. So they, of course, the 40 recommendations, and then you can go as far as saying, there are 9 special recommendations on terrorism. You can use in 89, that they came together and they met and they are part of the OECD. You can say that the Bahamas is a part of the CFATF. That's it. You get 2 or 3 points for that.
Okay,
But
for the intro.
Yeah.
For the intro, so just to say when they were started.
Yeah.
Mention the Bahamas is a part. We currently chair.
Yeah, you can say that. Good points.
Right.
Yes, but that's very recent. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And should I give details on the who they work along with?
No. No.
Okay.
You go to the task. Setting international standards, monitoring compliance, promoting worldwide application of FATF standards, encouraging compliance with non-FATF members, studies, methods, and trends, and what have you. And then you can use like an example. Currently, like you said, in the Bahamas, our Attorney General is the recent chair.
Yes.
But good points for that. You can say that from the mutual evaluation report of 2017, we were deficient in 22 of the 40 recommendations. you know, stuff like that. And then you can talk about one of the recommendations if you wish. But like I said, don't go on into it,
Okay.
just mentioning key, you know, areas. You could say that
So what
Yeah.
that means, mentioning the measures we took or no?
yeah, but you could say that, for instance, we have now our non-designated financial institutions now report to our compliance commission, as that
Right.
was one of the deficient, and that's the lawyers, the accountants, and the real estate are now properly regulated.
Okay.
You know, stuff like that.
Okay.
You could say that the European Union blacklisted us because the representative was supposed to come in and do a review to ensure that
Right.
laws were not only, you know, we didn't only put the shell in, but they were actually effective. However, due to the pandemic, they were unable to travel, and subsequently we were blacklisted. You know,
Right. But
stuff
we
like
just
that.
mentioned that because they removed us in November.
Yeah, but then you could put, and then we were removed in November.
Okay.
Yeah, but you
Okay,
want to
so
check with the international standards, monitoring compliance, encouraging compliance of non-FATF members with the FATF standards, and studies, methods, and trends. And then you could talk more so about our mutual evaluation report of 2017.
Okay.
And how we did there.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
No, I just gotta go and make sure I get that email.
Okay, yeah, I sent it to the one you gave to me.
Okay.
Okay, good.
All right.
Okay. Number 6 is Jason. Board MLRO roles, responsibilities, and common issues. Jason, you there, or you run away from me now? You there? Oh, okay. I say
Sorry.
you had enough of Miss Bullet, and that was it.
No. Well, let me know if I get astray here.
Okay.
So number 6, responsibilities of the board, senior management, and the MLRO. So
The most
firstly,
important part of this now is the issues.
the issues.
Common issues.
The common issues.
Yeah.
All right. So I did some research, and say common issues for all of them are, one is a poor positive AML CTF culture.
Okay.
And that's with the communication from, I guess, the board straight down to the workers. Insufficient resourcing, allocation of resources, be it technological, processing, staff, and systems. Leadership, non-compliant with the policies not sufficient with compliant AML legislations. So board members not being abreast of changes in anti-money laundering and counterterrorism financing. MLRO. Jesus, I can't even read my own handwriting.
Okay, but we don't want more than 3. Okay, you could get the full.
That was like 4 or 5.
Yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so you don't want to go over 3 for any subject that you talk about. 3 examples is sufficient, or and then you can explain when you could say, in the case of this or that, this happened because of poor culture or insufficient resources, and there are millions of cases out there that you could use as an example, or especially with non-compliance. Okay, and then you want to move on and say, what the rules are.
All right,
Go
so
on.
speak about the issues first.
No. I mean, however you set it up, however you
Oh,
set it
okay.
up. That's
Well,
fine.
okay, I said the issues first then. Okay,
Mhm.
so I have the roles, the role of the MLRO, I guess is required to improve AML CTF systems, ensuring continuous compliance and updating policies. How much do you want for each one?
Again, you want to
Give
just,
it to 3?
I guess like I say 3, yeah, 3.
Okay, and then yeah, updating policies for best practices or industry standards, and then evaluating new products and services.
But do they really update policies? That's very big.
Well, when I researched, they said updating policies, but in most cases, they write proposals for senior management to take to the board.
Okay, so essentially they are only responsible to ensure that the AML policies
And
are
current
current
and
and
yeah, and
updated.
in compliance.
Right, so if it's a credit policy, then they will say to the credit department, to the head of the credit, you have 90 days within to get this policy updated, or the deadline is fast approaching, or they will then monitor and track it until it's updated, not that they will update it themselves. So you don't want to just say updating policies. So one part is tracking, but if it's the AML policy, yeah, then yes.
Okay. And also they say it also said advise of regulatory
Correct.
changes.
And how do you even keep abreast? For instance, I read the publications in the newspaper every day. I subscribe with the regulator, and that's how you get the information, and you ensure that it's disseminated, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Next we have the board. I'm going backwards, sorry. The
That's
board.
fine. That's fine.
Yeah, the board responsibility, organizational structure. I guess it's establishment of rules, like appointing the MLRO and senior management. And also
Can everybody else outside of Jason move their mics, because we're getting some feedback? Sounds like a washing machine. Somebody washing?
No, I think that's the fan.
Oh, that's the fan. Okay. Yeah, so just mute your mics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead.
And said the board is also responsible for the culture of the establishment, also the motto, rules, and regulations. Senior management, they are supposed to
Okay,
set.
so let me just stop you. What would you say? Because I mean, that's a good part to put. When you talked about culture, you mentioned that could be one of the
common issues.
Then you want to throw your issue in right there, and then you said something else. You said that I wanted you to throw in. Okay, I forget.
For common issues, or
no, I mean when you were talking about the rule, I was just saying.
Oh, I started off saying responsible for organizational structure and establishment of rules, like appointing the MLRO.
Okay,
Yeah,
which is a regulated function.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then they set the standards and policies for the organization's risk.
Appetite.
Say that again?
The risk management or risk appetite of the business, something that don't just say risk.
Okay, yeah, the risk. I think, matter of fact, I think it did say risk, and they also, sorry, did I go? No, I went on to senior management day.
Yes.
Yeah, you want senior management.
Yeah, senior management set the stand. Yeah, set the standards and policies of organizations' risk appetite. They also place ownership of the AML CTF responsibilities with employees, with the MLRO monitoring, I guess, support staff, ensure adequate level of specific staffing for MLL, AML, and CTF, and continuous training for staff.
Oh, stop.
Yeah, that's
Pardon?
yeah,
I don't know. Somebody else said something. I don't know.
I was, yeah, okay. And yeah, and then ensuring continuous training for staff. And they also had continuous training for staff as a mandate for the MLRO as well.
Okay. Okay. But you want to just separate each one of them, and then you could put in an issue
the
for,
issue for each one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. You could put an issue for each one, or like 2 of them.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's basically what I have.
Yes. Okay. Okay, good. Very good.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Can we go over common issues again? I'm quite lost with the common issues.
Again, what he would have done is he did some research based on issues that could happen or what we discussed in class. So there are many, many issues. You can just pick 2 or 3 of them. But go ahead on the ones you picked, Jason.
Common issues. The first one I said was a poor or positive AML CTF culture in the organization. And the second one I was saying it was communication. And
But wait. Why you could say, how could you say
Oh,
positive
yeah.
if it's an issue?
well, did I said positive?
You say poor, positive.
No, sorry. The common issues for all of them as a poor AMF culture. Sorry, I don't know where I got positive from.
Okay.
And then insufficient resourcing, whether it be resources for processing or insufficient systems put in place, and staffing.
And then you can use an example as the compliance department makes no money for the business, whilst we do save on fines and ensuring that we are compliant. Most institutions, don't account that as making money for the business. So therefore, they are reluctant to invest in the proper systems or staffing for a compliance department.
All right. Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you.
Thank you.
And also, I think I said lack of communication and lack of training as another common issue. And I think you stopped me there for the 3 points.
Yeah, and then you put non-compliance with legislation.
Right, non-compliant. Yeah, I also said non-compliant with legislations.
Again, regulation is expensive, and back to again, they're not feeling like compliance is drumming in the revenue, and so therefore we need to I guess be compliant with the Beneficial Owners Act or the NPOs, but we have to close out all of the NPOs that are not the nonprofit organizations that are not registered. We have to close out Bishop Lawrence Rowell account because he wasn't able to go get registered with the Registrar General. So we losing business.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. So we say we're gonna use a staggered approach and we work with Bishop for as long as we could. And then they said it's gonna cost $10,000 if the account is found open after a certain date, or if he's found operating after a certain date. Okay, great. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you. You're welcome.
It's the NARA, question 7.
Good night.
Good night.
Money laundering crimes in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
I know we spoke about two, I think, previously, I think with the Urban Renewal Deputy Rackley, Michelle Rackley, and Alma Campbell and her son.
Correct.
We spoke
Which one
about-
was a PAP?
The PAP was Alma Campbell.
But Michelle Rackley was urban renewal. She
Yeah.
wasn't a PAP. At the time she committed the crime.
That's so many.
Not as a
Not
judge.
so much essentially, it's just like the director of the Urban Renewal.
Okay, and I thought they say any close associate, anybody could be influenced. You think she could have been influenced by the government or by the
Yes.
prime minister?
Definitely.
Is she a close associate?
Yeah, she could have.
Okay, so at that time, she wouldn't have been listed as a PEP, but you want to be careful. You want your organization to say at which rank, if it's at the permanent secretary ranking above or at the MP ranking above, so you want your institution to iron that out now so we are clear on who should be categorized as a PEP or not. But I'm sure after Michelle Rackley, a lot of institutions say, any position holders in the government should be listed. Or at least, monitored more closely. Okay, good. What about Shane Gibson and Frank
Yeah, Shane.
and all of them people?
Well, I know I did research Shane Gibson, where he was in the papers for bribery.
Okay.
But they didn't convict him of anything.
Yeah, but he was still charged.
The case, so
The case is still there.
So we'll still use him?
Yeah.
I wasn't quite sure if we would have still used Shane.
Yeah, but nobody has been convicted yet. MP in jail, right?
No.
Alma Campbell out on bail. Michelle Rackley out on bail. And Kendrick Dossett still out on bail. Only Shane and Frank Smith case over.
Okay.
Yeah. So you could use any one of them, but we want you to be able to explain, what they were charged with and exactly what they did.
Miss Bullard.
So
sorry. No. Yeah, that was my question with them. Was it because saying that the question says money laundering, right? But that was more bribery.
Yes.
Right.
On money laundering, they had 21 crimes.
Oh, okay.
Right? So
okay.
One of those 21 crimes is bribery, one is corruption.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I just was trying to make the connection like that.
Okay.
All right.
So Miss Bullard, we only supposed to talk about money laundering crimes for PEPs? Or because I know
I guess the question might say, talk about one with a PEP. I don't know. I just say just be on the lookout just in case. But let's look on page, we want it. Predicate crimes 9. You see that only on page 9, they only list some of them. Fraud, theft, counterfeiting, drug dealing, corruption, or bribery is right there as money laundering crimes. You see that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So, Ms.
Okay.
Clark,
Okay.
to target this question, we would just basically be providing examples, no definitions or anything, just examples.
Yeah. That's something you got out of the newspaper.
Okay.
So what about Pleasant Bridge Water? Like how bribery for John Travolta, would that be an example?
Yes, definitely.
And then what about persons who are not PEPs? Like a business owner, like a shareholder?
Yeah, that's fine. And
there
people
was
at the ATMs at CIBC,
the Bulgarian man. He used to study the ATM machines. He came over here in Nassau and he studied the ATM machines, and they used credit and debit cards, and he transferred the funds to the gift cards.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where he laundered the money, the funds from our credit cards that we use in the ATM machines, the credit card and the debit
Oh,
card.
he put that reader in the machine, just swipe the information.
Right, and put it on to the gift cards.
Oh, okay, okay.
I read that. And then I also found information on the shareholder for Palm Key Cummins.
Mhm.
He used to live, he is from the United Kingdom, but he was back and forth in Nassau, and he laundered money through drug trafficking and property development in Spain, and the proceeds passed through some of the financial systems in various countries and the Bahamas.
Okay, okay. So it might be specific to the Bahamas. So just make sure you have one of these from the Bahamas.
Even though he is a shareholder for Palm Key.
Yeah, that's fine. That's why I say make sure one of your, stories is from
So
the
just
Bahamas.
use at least one then, one story.
Yeah, depending on what the question asks you. It may ask you for more than one. It may ask you for a PEP. It may just say from the Bahamas.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we know how to answer that.
Yes.
Okay, great. Great.
But I have one more question.
Wait, but before you go on, and make sure you get the details. A lot of times people put fluff and they add things that ain't really happen. Make sure you go and read the story and you get the pertinent details to get your 10 points. Okay? All right. No fluff. No points of fluff. Go ahead, Denara.
For question number 4, right, with the IMF. I remember you guys saying that we was declined the 250 million, right? But I saw on the IMF website where they say that the Bahamas asked to borrow the 250 million. Is that correct?
Now, what
for
I know,
COVID-19.
Okay, that's why you have to differentiate between the stories. What I know for Hurricane Dorian, it was we paid the insurance, the Dormant Funds, and we did the IDB loan. Right after that, then they came. You remember the Prime Minister had this drive where he had asked different investors to come and make donations. At that time, the IMF had offered money, and we declined it. Now that was before the pandemic. Then the pandemic happened, and then we needed the money. So you just want to read to make sure you get the stories correct. We did decline it because we had that action plan in place. We didn't know at the point when we declined that we would have the pandemic. So that changed, that changed a lot of things. But at that time, for Dorian, we declined it.
But for the COVID pandemic, they did approve us of the 250 million then.
I don't know. You'd have to go and do research and find out. And when we mark in your paper, when the cross marker mark in your paper, she will fact check that and say the date and where it was taken from and if it was true or not.
Okay, because I know I saw it on their website. That's why I asked.
Yeah. So fine. Yeah. But like I said, just know that that's why specifically, if the question asks you specifically about Dorian, then we decline. If it asks you about the pandemic, then you will confirm that we got it or not.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, good. Good. Erica, you feeling up to 8 or no?
No, I wasn't able to complete.
Okay. So
I mean, I have some stuff, but
okay, yeah. So basically, you could give us what you want because we just want to know how to answer these questions when we see them. Because a lot of times we read questions and we like, what? What does it mean? So when we see these topics, we wanna overview it. Okay, we are supposed to include 1, 2, and 3, and let's see what specifics the questions are asking.
The Proceed of Crime Act legislation set out 4 court orders, which applies to the criminal conduct that was committed. Now, this is where I'm confused because you also talked about monitoring orders and product orders.
Protection.
Production orders.
Production orders. Yeah,
Mhm.
and I really didn't really understand all, but
No, but the legislation sets out several court orders for types of the conviction-based confiscation, non-conviction-based.
right, I
So
understand
yeah,
that.
so there are different types of court orders, but each fall under these four categories.
Okay, and so which category would monitoring and production orders fall under? I need to.
It really, I guess it depends. Like it tells you that a conviction-based confiscation, they give restraint order as an example, but it depends on, okay, a production order is just an order then to produce.
But the only difference I was able to see between a production order and a restraint order was that the restraint order it comes from the Justice of Supreme Court, and the production order comes from the magistrate court. Has to be issued from the magistrate court.
Okay, so if this question comes on the exam, they will ask you to explain what a production order is, explain what a restraint order is, explain what an unexplained, I mean, the most popular one is unexplained wealth order that I've seen come on all the, these questions. Yeah.
Production order is
Yeah, so a
authorized.
production order is just an order to produce. This conviction-based confiscation is once you are charged, then they have a right to, confiscate.
Investigate and to
Right. Yeah. Right. So it depends on how you are charged. So, a production order, normally they send a production order to the Royal Bank and say, please produce this information. If the Royal Bank does not produce that information, then they will get a fine, or particular persons will be charged. Suppose I take the file and I put it down the shredder. The Royal Bank will have to say, well, Ms. Bullitt took the file and put it down the shredder, so we were unable to produce, the documentation that you asked for. But subsequently, we let her go. Or they will ask, what was the action, and then they will decide if they go and after Ms. Bullitt or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if a police officer comes to your to the bank and asks for information and they don't have a production order, you don't have to give it to them?
Right. No, you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to share any information with any third party if they don't have a warrant or a subpoena or a production order. And normally they don't come to the bank. Once, remember, it's a regulated function. So once the regulator would have approved you, you are required to register with the FIU, and they have everything online now. And so you have to check that, you get an email if they send you a message, and when you open up that message, you would see that that's the production order.
Okay.
Yeah, so they don't normally come to the bank unless they come to arrest somebody or they come to actually confiscate.
So they go to the legal department?
Miss Bullard.
Sorry?
They'll go to legal?
If
they would go through legal first.
No, they send it to the MLRO, whoever is listed as the MLRO, which is the compliant officer. Right.
But Ms. Bullard, wouldn't that trigger a legal hold? Because if something involving legal, then something should go out to advise that such and such is the case. It's something to do with the court. So any information pertaining to that particular client, subject, whoever, must not be shredded, done away, nothing. And everybody, whatever you have to basically not get rid of it because it involves the court.
Yeah, but we had people who remember, I don't know if I told you this class, but when I was at Royal Bank, I had to actually fly to Miami and do a training on the document control room in Miami, because when persons were fired, they took all their files and they put them in the shredder.
Well, what happened to records management and
well, again, this was
supposed to have the policies in place once you say
Renee, in Perfect, all the policies are in place. In the real world, there was no policy in place.
No.
The law, there was a shell, and everybody did what the document control room was not shut off, and anybody could go in and request the file and keep it in their drawer for days.
What?
Okay, only now, since the law has been updated and now we see enforcement, then we put controls in place. Remember now, the risk assessment was not enforced. So we just tell the people, sign your name on the book and take the file and make sure bring it back.
What?
Now, only when we saw things out of order, we say, oh, we have to turn off the files to Renee, because Renee is take all the pages out, switch the file upside down. And
Oh
when
my
we
gosh.
suggested that we turn off the files, they went berserk. So when the only way I got those people to turn files off, because the people swear they needed the file, even though everything was online. When we turned things off was because one girl had gotten fired, and they told her the Royal Bank had this thing where they let you work all day and they fire you at 4 o'clock. And that girl knew she was getting fired. So that whole day she went to the document control room. I need this file, that file. And she put 10 files in the shredder.
Oh.
And that was the only way I convinced them that the files should be turned off. I don't know if you ever work in trust or in Life a Key, and those people, you don't tell them.
No.
You have to beat them over the head with a stick. They don't listen.
Oh wow.
If it ain't in the policy or in the law, you have the
Yeah,
manner.
that's because in organizations, people think the records is theirs. It's not. It's the company records.
Yeah.
And if you don't enforce the policy, that's what you're gonna have. That's the big risk right there with not managing your information.
Okay, and then we are very reactive, not proactive, right? So they never heard me. Oh, Miss Bullet won't make our life hard. She thinks she is the police. She this and that next thing. Tell that girl, do all of that. And then they say, could you fly to Miami, for a training phase? Before you leave, you have to turn off all the files. You have to send correspondence out. You got to train the document control room. You got to, then they was on my side. Reaction.
Okay.
When they could have been
that's true.
proactive, right? So something had to happen.
But that should never happen. Anytime something involving a legal matter, the whole organization needs to be on alert to know, hey, you don't touch nothing in relation to that subject.
Okay, you talk to some of these people.
Come off until the matter is settled.
No, you talk to these people who've been in the bank 30 years. That's their bank.
That's right.
That's their bank. You can't tell them that's their bank.
Ms. Bullet, I have a question about the non-conviction based civil forfeiture, the freezing order. Now, for me, freezing and seizing is two different things. And both of these are under this civil forfeiture.
Okay, so first they will freeze it until the court case goes on, and then the judge determines what will be seized.
If the person's convicted?
Right. So I had a friend who decided they was going to go to the United States and on a boat and take groceries, but of course the groceries was drugs. So they got arrested, and their boat could not leave. Their family members tried to say, well, okay, y'all could go lock him up, but we need to come and secure the boat. The boat was worth like over $100,000. And they said, oh no, that boat cannot get home. So that means that it's frozen until the court case, comes out, and they decide if they're gonna charge him or not. So anyway, he paid a fine, and he got like two years in jail. And so once he had paid that fine, they said the freeze was taken off the boat, and the family member could come and collect the boat while he went to jail.
Oh, I'm surprised they allowed him.
Yeah, I was surprised too, and that being the U.S. Now, of course, they blocked him for 7. He spent his 2 years. They blocked him for 7 years, and they say after 7 years he could apply, but he could not go back to the U.S. Indefinitely.
You said blocked him from doing what? If you said
traveling to the U.S. Traveling.
So he could travel after 7 years.
Well, you have to go and apply for a visa, and then more than likely they will reject you again. But for sure, for 7 years, you cannot travel once you have a criminal record related to drugs.
What about any other crime other than drug trafficking?
I'm not certain. I'm not certain. I don't think is any other crime, because I know somebody else who has been to jail for another crime and he was able to travel. Like, I mean, he came out of jail, say in January, and by March he was in the States. So I
don't
guess
understand that. And people here too are being able to travel too, who spend time in prison here.
yeah, so it's more so for drugs. Once you get charged for drugs, then they you know. And like I said, the purpose of this question too, again, they'll just ask you to explain. More than likely it'll be the unexplained bail order, or the change is that in the past it used to just be you that would go to jail. But if you try and put all these things in your mother's or your father's name, whomever, they can also be, brought before the courts as well.
Okay, so with the unexplained wealth order, the following circumstances, a PEP, public office holder, you went over these, I think.
Yeah.
Responding to applications for civil forfeiture.
Yeah, and that's the Michelle Reckley and Elma Kelma, right? Because they could not explain how they acquired all this wealth on their government salary.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
That would be Shane Gibson either.
Miss Bullet?
I don't know if he had unexplained wealth or just was he bribery, or I couldn't remember. He had a lot of counts. You have to read it. Yeah.
Okay.
Miss Bullet can't keep all these things in her head. The whole key is to know, to be information seeking, and to know where to go to get the information.
Yeah.
To cut down your research, but don't try to keep it all in your head.
Okay.
Sorry, somebody else said something?
Michelle Reckley and Elmer Campbell Chase, their cases aren't in court yet.
They were charged.
Yeah.
They out on bail. Okay. The court, in the papers. You can read the papers.
The Tribune, March 3rd, 2000 for Elma. Let me see, Michelle.
2000 or 2020?
Well, but the printout what I have. Yeah, did I say 2000? 2020, sorry.
I go give these people a date. They ain't gonna go search, they can write what you say.
I know, I see. And the date go, I don't know where I get 2000 from.
If Erica say it, we know they done write that down, Erica. Give them the right information.
And for Reckley is March 29th, 2019. And that is also the Tribune. Yeah, to case. Okay.
So, Ms. Bullard, just for clarification purposes, if given this court orders Bahamas question, you want us to basically focus on the unexplained wealth, describe it, give an example.
No. I want you to answer the question. I say more than likely. I can't give you the question now. Okay. We have all these questions in a test bank. What I've seen in the past is a question on unexplained wealth.
Okay, so, okay.
Or what is the difference between a disclosure order and a production order? Stuff like that. That's what I've seen previously.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Meryl, I'm thinking you're working. Meryl, you're thinking, yeah?
You're asking all these questions. I had to start my computer over.
Oh, okay, good. All right, Meryl, give us number 9, customer due diligence.
Okay, so for this one, I basically focused on providing my understanding or definition of customer due diligence. And I also mentioned the benefits of actually going by the KYC policy, which is knowing your client. And I would have made notes saying how it's beneficial and, how it restricts money laundering and terrorist financing, prevents identity theft and identity fraud, and it prevents possible misuse of banking activities for illegal activities. I also mentioned how the risk-based approach is most suitable in regards to the CDD. And I described that approach. And I also would have targeted this question by just briefly mentioning the 2 types of due diligence, which is enhanced and simplified. I didn't go in depth because that was the next question. but I just basically spoke on how one is basically focused to high risk customers and the other for low risk customers. I also mentioned in keeping the best practices, a few statutory requirements are focused on.
There you go.
That would have been the identification, record keeping, monitoring, training, and reporting. And in my notes, I would have described briefly for each of them what they're speaking to. Sorry?
No, I was just saying excellent, because for the most part, with the customer due diligence questions, that's what I saw, statutory requirements. So you on point. But so
And then
if it specifically asks you about a statutory requirement, speak to that, and then add some of the introduction to it that you said previously.
Okay.
And then I also remember at the beginning of the session, I would have asked you about if we can use an example that we would have done, like I would have experienced at work. It would have had to do with identification, one of the statutory requirements, and basically being focused and actually knowing your client. So I would have had a client that doesn't normally do withdrawals, but he had a son with the same name, and they didn't indicate senior on the account. And just because I knew the customer doesn't make withdrawals as such, I just went deeper and looked into the KIF, and that's the customer information, sorry. What I realized that the date of birth was different. Things that we could actually speak to or ask questions, just and the signature was the first off actually. So basically that was an issue that I was faced with during work. So that's what I wanted to ask you, if I could bring in that anecdote in this question if relevant.
Yes, definitely. It was for identification purposes. And don't say KIF, because we don't know what that is.
That's why I said customer information. I'm sorry.
We say we don't know what the KIF, what that is. And we could spend 30 minutes trying to figure out if we should give you a point for that, because we don't know.
Oh Lord, sorry.
Yeah. So please don't use no acronyms and jargons and what have you that we are not familiar with. We know CDD, KYC, FATF, IMF. That's it. The rest, write it out.
Yes,
What was
ma'am.
that?
Okay.
KIF, CIF.
Oh.
We would have been like, the what?
Yeah, my apologies. Afterwards, I did take customer information.
You'd be like, take a point off again. Yeah. But you were spot on, like I said, with the statutory requirements primarily. That's what, when we see the customer due diligence questions, is primarily on statutory requirements, or it gives you a scenario, and it tells you that this person lives in Afghanistan. They want to do $1 million in transactions monthly. You know, different red flags that they want you to point out the red flags. It's a company account, and they did not bring in, you know, all the documentation. Should we open up this account, and why not?
Okay.
But for more than likely, you would get the statutory requirements, or you will get a scenario.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I had.
Sorry, somebody said something?
No, that was me saying that's all I had.
Okay, good. You know, no, spot on. Very good. And then you you had the example, so that's good. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Erica Ferguson, enhance and simplify due diligence. Is Erica Ferguson there? Okay, so let me just start with enhance and simplified. Again, we want to avoid the fluff. So we say simplified, and on the simplified due diligence, we normally carry this out for low risk and medium risk rated clients. On the simplified, there's also an exempted category, where that's persons on the stock exchange, persons that have a regulator. Who else? Insurance companies would for a specific amount under a threshold of under $300, I think, with the Bank of the Bahamas prepaid cards. So simplified means that we ask for proof of a source of income, whereas with enhanced we ask for a source of wealth. So with enhanced due diligence, it's just the extra steps that we carry out to ensure that we cover all the risks involved with the person. So some things, it can depend on a product or a service. They can be a company that offers bearer shares. They may be a company that wants correspondent banking. It may be a PEP, a politically exposed person, and then you can talk about that. And or they, what else is another high risk category? Automatically tied. I think I covered it. Bearer shares, PEPs, correspondent banking, and considered high risk. So when they open an account, it's just the extra steps that we take. So whereas we may world check all our clients, high, medium, and low, with the enhanced due diligence, we don't only do world check, we do LexisNexis. We get a proximal report, which is like an outside company that goes and does an investigation on the company or on the person, and we use that report. Or we use internet searches. So simplified, we would only do that one world check. Enhanced, we would do an extensive report, Google searches, LexisNexis, and world check. We will list that person as high risk. Whereas with simplified, we get source of income. With enhanced, we get source of wealth, which means 3 years of financials. If you say you inherited the money, we want a copy of the will and the amount to see what you inherited. If you sold a piece of property, we want to see the conveyance of the piece of property. Okay, so you want to stipulate the differences between the two, what you would do for simplified versus what you would do for enhanced. You want to be able to explain it. With your annual review, if you're low, we will review you every 3 years. If you're medium, we will review you every 2 years. If you're high risk, we will review you annually. In terms of approval, we will let the compliance department approve you if you're low or medium. We will let the compliance committee approve you if you're a PEP. We will let the board approve you. So they are the various controls that we put in place to differentiate between simplified and enhanced.
Wait, you said the compliance department approves the low risk?
It depends on your institution. It's on a case-by-case basis.
Oh.
The regulators ask you, what do you do or what controls do you have in place to mitigate the risk against your high-risk clients? And so you can tell them, and they will either say, okay, it's sufficient based on the countries that you deal with, or they may say, no, you need to add another step or another control.
Okay.
Are we clear on how to explain it? Because a lot of times persons just run on and on and on, and they miss showing, comparing and contrasting or showing the differences between the two. So essentially, if you're gonna, just how question 1 was set up on page 22 or 23, you would want to set up a chart to list the differences between the two. You want to put enhance in one side, and you want to put simplified, and then you show the differences, and that should be able to help you.
So you literally want to see a chart?
No, I'm just saying in your study.
Okay.
In your study. But I mean, if you wanna, if it's easier for you, but if in your that's an easy way to study. You can create that chart.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, any questions? And then of course, if the question asks you about a PEP, it's your brother, sister, cousin, auntie, all those type of people closely related to you, close friends.
Was the previous Zoom meeting posted on YouTube? Because I can't find it.
Okay, you would need to speak to Miguel. Just call Miguel and he will direct you to it, or he'll send it to your email.
Okay.
Ms. Bullitt,
Yeah.
did we ever say if a PEP is always a PEP or after 1 year they leave office? In the case of a politician, they are no longer a PEP?
Okay, so central bank prior to the update of 218 said a PEP is a PEP for 1 year after they leave office. After the laws changed, they said no, a PEP is always a PEP, or they removed it completely. So it's really up to your institution. But I know we had a check where the compliance central bank came in and they said, why isn't this person listed as a PEP? And they said, well, at the time when we risk rated them or when the account was open, the law said only 1 year, and that person had been out of office for 5 years. But central bank said, so isn't that account being reviewed annually? So that means it should have been changed at the 1 year review, and it wasn't. So they still gave them a note for it. So that was removed. So what institutions should have done is gone behind and risk rated their accounts to reflect what the new law states. But some institutions are still holding on to. Then we open this account, because of course they don't want so many high risk persons on their books, and definitely they don't want pets, especially now that they're being brought before the courts. And then some people, they're just not knowledgeable to the fact that if you have the government of Angola or the government of Canada account, that's a PEP account. I don't know. Some people just didn't categorize it properly. Because, like I said, salespeople do whatever possible to ensure that, their accounts are not listed as high risk. And even now, the regulators risk rating each institution, and they're risk rating that based on what percentage of your business is high risk. And people don't want to go over 25%, because if they're near to 50, there's no way the regulator will risk rate you as low or medium if 50% of your business is high risk. And so what that means is you have to pay for audit every year. You have to be reviewed annually, and so that's audit is very expensive, especially if you don't have internal audit. And then some of these institutions are duly regulated, so all of that is cost. So they try to, keep the high risk clients at a low. And then even when you fill out, like if you offer correspondent banking service or your correspondent bank, there's a questionnaire called the Wolfsburg questionnaire. When you fill that out, they also ask you what percentage of your business is like gas and oil, diamonds, high risk countries. And if you go over a certain amount after you fill out that questionnaire, they say, oh no, we cannot, your business is too high risk, we cannot offer you this service. And in the offshore world, if you can't offer correspondent banking, you might as well shut down, because nobody walks into the bank to do a transaction. Everything is sent through wires. So you have to, stay in line with and like I say, Wolfsburg questionnaire used to be 28 questions before 218. Now it's 200 questions and 2 separate questionnaires that you have to answer. It's so intensive that they even send a booklet on how to answer the questions, a whole booklet. So yeah, that has turned in from a 28 question check the box to a very expansive, you take a days to complete that sometime.
So for the Bahamas, then after 1 year, you are no longer a PEP. And each individual institution makes that decision?
No.
No.
That's not what I said.
What did
I
you say?
said central bank guidelines previously, before 2018, had stated that you are a PEP up to 1 year after you leave office. Since the laws have been updated, they have removed that. Okay? And outside of policy and procedure, there's also best practice. Now, you could go and do some research on PEPs and see exactly what they put, but I know they removed that. So I don't know what they put. I don't know if they said up to 5 years now, or they just removed it and didn't replace it. I can't, I'll have to go and look, but you could go and look.
Okay, so that
But
means a PEP
in
might
my eyes, in my institution, we said once a PEP, always a PEP.
always a
It
PEP.
just depends on your institution if they're going to cap it. But normally you see these people still becoming a consultant, still being on the campaign trail, still doing commercials on behalf of their party. So you are required to know your customer.
Okay, that's correct.
Yeah. Yeah. So you could do some research to see exactly what it says now, but I know they had removed the 1 year. But best practice says once a PEP, always a PEP. And so you won't find everything in writing or a guideline, but there are lots of best practice that you just adopt.
Okay.
Excuse me, Ms.
Thank you,
Bullock.
Ms. Bullock.
You're welcome. Yes, go
I
ahead.
have to leave.
Okay, take care. It was a pleasure, and all the best in the exam.
Thank you so much. Good
You're
night,
welcome.
everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Best practice area.
So, any more questions or concerns?
Good. I don't know.
And do we understand how to answer the questions?
Yes, ma'am.
It was helpful.
Okay.
Yes, it was helpful this evening.
Yeah, and just look over the 4 questions that you would have had. You know, they were previous exam questions, like what you had for homework. That's like how the structure of the questions are. You know, but like I said, the key to it is organization. The key to it now is I'm going to select these 7 topics to write on, and then I'm going to practice. I already have my homework, so I only have 6 more. We already know that the poker information is on the multiple choice, so we wouldn't select that as an essay. But everything else, there's an essay question for.
Okay.
And then we are going to gauge ourselves. 3 hours is 180 minutes. Help Miss Bullet. Miss Bullet can't count.
3 hours.
It's 180 minutes.
Yes.
Okay. You have 180 minutes, and we have, let's say, 8 questions because you count the 50 in multiple choice. Yeah, so you have 20 minutes. So if you gauge yourself, I don't need to spend more than 20 minutes on each question. Like I said, whatever you feel easiest, even if you feel that one of the essays are easiest, and I leave my multiple choice questions to the end, do that. And then get stuck later on. But if you gauge 20 minutes for each question, you should be okay. When you see yourself going over 20 minutes, that means your easier questions should have only taken you 15 minutes. So you want to keep abreast of the time. But when you get in, there should be 5 minutes of reading time. That's when you say, okay, I know I go writing about statutory requirements. I know I'm writing about FATF. You circle those questions, and then you go to answer them. Okay, and somebody asked when will we get the results? You normally get the results 2 weeks after you take the test. So you take the test on the 20th. It'll go to get cross mark first because I like to have the last say. And sometimes the cross, you know, some of y'all just need an interpreter. I'd be like, oh Lord, I know what Patricia was trying to say. I understand a little better. So I like it to get cross mark first, and then I mark after.
Okay.
some of us. So around y'all are taking it on the 20th, so around March 9th. Miss Dean, you call office. Miss Bullet is not allowed to give out grades. Please don't call me. So the people that say, I call Miss Bullet tell me I passed. Miss Bullet can't tell you you pass or you fail. Miss Bullet will be in trouble. Please call the office. I do not give out grades. I'm not allowed to.
No, boy.
Who's saying, oh boy? Who that is? Not Jason.
Huh?
Who's saying, oh boy?
That was me.
Oh, why? Oh, why? I am not responsible. That all these grades go to the office.
No, I didn't say oh boy because of that.
Oh, okay. But yeah, but like I say, the key to this is to not be overwhelmed. And like I said, most of you are going into it comfortably with 35%. So you can't beat that. If you got 100%, 90 or 80 on your homework, you comfortably going into between with this exam with 30 or 35%. You only need another 35%. That don't mean you mustn't study. But the exam is 70%. So you halfway there. Now for those of you who did not do homework, you all didn't even show up to the review class and you never answer me. You should be very, very much concerned. You didn't get your extra 5 points, which means the difference between your A and your B, or you're passing and you're failing. I give you every opportunity. So, people that say, oh, Miss Bullet, I get 68. There's 70 to pass the class. And if you get 68, that means Miss Bullet turn your paper upside down looking for 2 points to give to you, and it just wasn't nowhere. So please print, so I don't have to call in an interpreter. There's some people just do this little slant pretty join on. Miss Bullet can't read that.
I don't think you will see my printing.
Print. If you want points, you print. That has been people have lost points because you simply could not understand what they were saying.
I promise you, my cursive is better than printing.
Well, I hope so.
For your sake.
If it's not legible, then And like I say, thank God, I some of y'all would have communicated with me, and so I can say, oh Lord, this is what Jason did me, and this is what Denara did me. I understand, yeah, she understands, but Lord knows the people who I don't know. At this point, there's nothing I can do. But like I say, overall, I'm very pleased. I feel this is a very intellectual class. Person seemed to be engaged and reading the newspaper and helping the class to be not so monotonous and carried on the conversation. So I'm very thankful, and it has indeed been a pleasure. I do hope that I see the majority of you all in intermediate, and if it's not in this semester, in the semesters to come. But if compliance is not for you, it's completely understandable. But please do go on a continuous learning journey in any area that you are passionate about or more comfortable with, because compliance isn't for everybody. It's very comprehensive and it is a lot of work. But if you do find it as your passion, I will see some of you all the way up. And for the rest of you, I wish you all the best. And please, like I say, go on this continuous journey of learning and just attending seminars, keeping current of what you do at work, and making sure that you understand. Comprehension, like what we learn in primary school, is very important, because a lot of times there's so much information out there and we don't know, it scares us away when we see the thickness of a book. So make sure you not only read, but you comprehend, and you read the newspaper every day, and you attend the civic groups. As most of you said, they were very beneficial, unless you was just didn't want to break Miss Bullet out. That's Jason or that's Stephanie. Stephanie definitely would break Miss Bullet out. Okay,
well, I ain't trying to break your heart now.
Okay, well, good. That's good. That's good. You be diplomatic in all circumstances. Very good. Very good. So, if there are no more questions or concerns, I pray that you all get sufficient time to study and sufficient time to relax and unwind, and that you are all successful in passing this exam.
It should be okay to email you if I get stuck with something, right?
Definitely.
I was about to ask the same question because I'm still a little iffy about the IMF, but I'm gonna do my studying and research first, and then if I have any other questions, I'll just email you if that's okay.
Okay, yes, please. But remember now, I postponed the class because I had a death in the family, and I'm planning a funeral and attending it, which is on Saturday. So this week is gonna be tough for me. So right after Saturday, I should be back to normal.
That's understandable.
Yeah, I should be over for the next 2 days, and then after Saturday.
That's no problem.
Okay,
Definitely understand that.
okay.
Yeah, so if I don't respond, I will respond when I get through this week.
Okay.
No problem.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thank you too. And Erica just reminded us about the seminar tomorrow, so some of you try to attend that as well. And
Yes.
again, remember to register with BACO as a student if you're going to continue.
Oh, I haven't heard from them yet.
Yes.
You haven't? Okay. How long ago did you apply?
The first week? The
The
class?
first week? Okay, follow up with Miss Dean.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, thank you too.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Good evening,
Thank you.
everyone.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Good night.
night.
And condolences, Ms. Bullard.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Much
No
condolences.
problem.
Welcome. Hmm.
Meryl. Meryl, you still there? Mm.